Hey guys, so it's the day 3 video today, and we're going to continue talking about evidence of evolution. So, the past 2 days we've been talking about the fossil record, comparative anatomy. So, the fossil record was basically how you track evolution over millions of years by observing different fossils which appeared at different points in Earth's history. The second thing we studied was comparative anatomy, meaning comparing the bodies of different organisms that exist in this time or in the past. So we talked about 3 different things in comparative anatomy. We talked about homologous structures. Homologous structures are structures which are thought to have originated from the same ancestor because they have a lot of similarities. We also talked about vestigial structures. Vestigial structures are structures which were useful to our ancestors but are not useful to us anymore. So they have lost their function, and after millions and millions of years, they eventually become smaller or disappear over time. And the last thing we talked about were analogous structures. These are structures which have the same function, but they did not come from a common ancestor, meaning the wings of an insect evolved separately from the wings of a bird or a bat, right? Basically, this is just because they have very different structures and they are made up of different materials, so there's no way that they could have logically came from the same ancestor. They evolved separately. All right, so today we're going to move away from the physical bodies of organisms and we're going to dive deeper into their cells and into their proteins through comparative molecular biology. Now, comparative molecular biology is a newer field of studying evolution. This was obviously not around during Darwin's time, so he would have never been able to use this in his studies. But nowadays, scientists use comparative molecular biology for a lot of different things. Now, you guys know that mutations can happen in different organisms as their DNA changes. Every one of our cells, almost every single one of our cells, contains DNA. And if this DNA ever changes, our physical functions or different parts of us can also change with those changes in DNA. Because the DNA is basically what tells your body what you're going to look like and how different parts of you are going to work, because they tell your cells what to do, right? So if you ever get a difference or a mutation in your DNA, that basically means that your DNA has changed in some way. All right, so let's just take a look over here. Just a quick recap of this. Your DNA tells your body how to build proteins. See all these little chains of proteins right here? These are basically exactly the same as this. These are little amino acids, and all together they are folded up and turned into a functioning protein. Proteins are extremely important in your body. They help you to see, they help you move, they help you think. They are the little machines of your body that keep you going. So if we look here for a second, this is just an example of a protein that you guys might remember. This is ATP synthase. Remember, it's the machine that makes ATP. So if you look over here, see how it moves and it works and it actually does something. This is how the proteins in your bodies function. Now, when you accumulate mutations in your proteins or in your DNA, sometimes these can stop working, or sometimes they can actually start to work more efficiently, depending on how the mutation happened. So when we're studying them, we look at their amino acid sequence. This amino acid sequence is what turns into that protein that you just saw earlier. When one thing changes in it, this is called a mutation. So as you can see, this was the original sequence, and after a couple of years, it gained 2 mutations. These mutations might be small, they might make no difference. Not every mutation is deadly, and also not every mutation is going to turn you into a superhero. You never really know. But when we go here, if I wanted to study 3 different organisms, organism 1, 2, and 3, all I would need to do is take the same protein from each organism and study the difference between each organism's proteins. So let's say organism 1, this is his amino acid sequence, which makes his protein. Organism 2 looks like this, and organism 3 looks like this. If I ask you, which of these organisms are the most closely related, you would probably think 1 and 2 because there's only one difference between them, so they must be more similar. If I go for 1 and 3, there are 2 differences, this and this and this and this, which means organism 3 has mutated more further away from organism 1. So these two are closely related, while these two are actually far related because they have more mutations between them. All right, so if we're going to look at a very specific example, we're going to look at a protein that is found in the bodies of almost every organism called cytochrome C. Cytochrome C is a protein found in the mitochondria of organisms, and it helps you to build ATP. It's a vital, vital, vital protein which almost all organisms need to survive. So if you ever had a cytochrome C that stopped working, you would also stop working with it. All right? So when I look over here, this is showing me how many mutations each one of these has had away from this monkey. So the monkey has had very less mutations away from us humans because we're comparing this to humans, while a pig and a monkey are more closely related because there are less differences between them than a monkey and yeast. There are huge differences in the amino acid sequence of yeast versus that of monkeys. So basically what this graph is showing us is how different are the protein sequences of each one of these organisms. So just by looking at this, I can tell that a duck and a turtle are more closely related than a duck and a moth, right? Because there's clearly a very big difference between this line and this line. So this just shows me that a lot of mutations have occurred between ducks and moths, meaning that they are clearly not closely related. All right, so you guys, now for today, you're not going to have a worksheet, so just ignore this. You're going to go and you're going to do your Google Slides, your Google Forms quiz. All right, guys, good luck.